Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Xa Talk Show. So today I'm going to code JavaScript, and I'm going to code JavaScript related to keyboard layout graphics. So if you have comments, okay, I love to see your comments. And I'm going to code JavaScript. Uh, let's just go through. Let's see what I'm going to do. JavaScript, I'm gonna talk about JavaScript. I'm gonna, live coding. So this is something I have to do for my website. So let me begin by showing you. Okay, let's show you today's talk show page. What do I have to do? So first of all, so if you go to my website, you'll see, just search for Xali keyboard and click on layout. You'll see these. Let's do a, hold on a second. Xali keyboard. Okay, so go to my keyboard blog. Hello, break the loop. So you go to my keyboard blog, then you click on layout. So and you can see, so these are articles about keyboard layouts. So for example, you have, let me turn on JavaScript here. So you can have so here is the layout for QWERTY, and you can see the heat map. So I can click on Vorak. Here's a layout for Vorak, and you can see the heat map. So E is the most used. So you can see for Vorak, most frequently used keys are on the home row. And back to QWERTY. So and there are many other layouts. So here is Comac, DH, and so on. So this is one of the, this is written in JavaScript, and this image is SVG. So you can see it's SVG because I can select the text. It's not a bitmapped image. So that's one of the JavaScript project, a minor one I did to keyboard layout diagram for all these different layouts. But it's not perfect, so there are quite a few things to do. So for example, so this is one of them. Let me show you some other ones. Okay, so this is one of them. You click on layout, then you go down, then you click on character frequency plotter. So here is where you type, for example, delete. Now I start to type something, and you can start to see the frequency of the occurrence of each letters. So this is interactive, so you can see T and E is used most frequently so far. And if you are a programmer, you can get the data, or you can copy. For example, let's go to Emacs. So I copy the whole buffer, go back to the browser, click here, select all, paste, and you can see, so you can see the frequency for those characters. So you can copy and paste any programming source code, Haskell, Java, JavaScript, C, Python, or whatever language you program. So you can see actually, which character occurs more often in those languages. This is especially interesting if you are studying keyboard layout for programmers. In fact, I have a special page on that. I mean, basically, you want to know which punctuation characters, such as less than, greater than, or dollar sign, or double quote or parentheses, are most often used in which programming language. For example, underscore. I have an article on that. You can just search for it somewhere here. Computer character. So here is a computer language character frequency. So anyway, and when you look at this chart, for example, they focus on the punctuations. So this is a combination of basically most popular languages. You can see underscore is the most frequently used character, and followed by parentheses. This is combination of C, C++, Java, JavaScript, Perl, Bash, HTML, CSS, and Python and Ruby, combination of them. And you can see the distribution for each language. For example, here's JavaScript, where equal sign apparently is the most often used punctuation symbol character in JavaScript. Different project, they may have different styles. So for example, we have 3 different JavaScript projects. So this one, parenthesis comes second, then the period. And for this one, parenthesis comes 7th place, but the period is second. So you can see the equal sign and the parenthesis, the equal sign and the dot is the most frequently used in JavaScript, but actually parentheses as well, because in another project. So then you have a combined. Anyway, so this is JavaScript. Then you can see Java patterns for Java frequency, then Golang, then C++. In C++ you can see that underscore or low line. In Unicode, this character is called low line, which is a better name. It's most often used, and also in C. And PHP, of course, it's a $sign, because every variable starts with the $sign. And in Python also underscore, because they prefer underscore, snake case. And in Ruby, underscore again, so underscore is everywhere. Then Perl $sign in Bash. Okay, so these are the frequencies of punctuation characters for programming languages. Okay, so you can see. So far we have 2 projects. Okay, so let me go back to let me show you. Hold on a second. So copy the URL, open a new buffer, paste it here, and paste it there. And let's go back to this one. Okay, so let me show you. So right now, I have 2 JavaScript code. One is for the illustration of the diagram, the layout, and one is the character frequency, which is dynamic. Now, so these are already written. But what is it that I want to do? I want to make some changes, okay, to make them better. Let me read the comments. Looks like Benford Law. Okay, so did you program the character frequency plot? What do you use? Well, I use so it's asking what it's written in JavaScript, and it output SVG in both of these the layout diagram and also the character frequency. And which library I use, let me show you that one. Okay. I need to be dramatic. So look at these comics. Whoa, which plugin have you used to do this thing? None. So this is that is my JavaScript style. I don't use none of the libraries. It's all plain JavaScript. No, not one single library from npm or wherever. So anyway, and I'm gonna, I can show you. That's what I'm going to do today. You are going to see the code. I'm gonna show you. So by the way, I have you guys may know I have a JavaScript in-depth tutorial. I spent 2 years to code this JavaScript in-depth. Yeah, 2 years basically full time. So if you like my stuff, my style of explanation and tutorial, buy it. Okay, so you have JavaScript and JavaScript references, the global object, the infinity, that's the JavaScript reference, and all the methods. For example, all the methods for array, so you have array prototype, array constructor, prototype is array from of. Then if you click on prototype, you see all the array methods. So you have JavaScript in depth, that's a tutorial in depth. Then you have reference for if you are a daily coder of JavaScript, that's useful. Then the most important thing is DOM, because if you are using JavaScript to program the web, basically the time you spend the most is with the DOM. So what do I do with DOM? So there are lots of libraries. For example, Angular, React, Vue, and 1,000. Quite a few, 5 more others. That's very popular. I don't use any of them. So I prefer to use the raw technology, and it's not too complex. Okay, I teach you the raw things, how so you can actually write. You can write a React yourself. You can write your own framework. So anyway, so you have JavaScript in depth tutorial, object reference, DOM, but you also have SVG. So you click on that web dev tutorial. You also see a complete tutorial for SVG. So this tutorial will show you, for example, let's see something more fun. So you can write this clock with JavaScript, and here's the code. Not many code, only 100 lines of code, and you don't need any libraries. So in the same way, that's how these are programmed, and it's not hard. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I have these 2 projects, this layout diagram and this frequency chart. I'm going to show you the code, but first of all, let me tell you what is it I need to code. What is it I need to change? Okay, so let me start to explain. Okay, so let's shrink. We don't need it to be that big. Okay, so if you click on layout, let me show you some characters. So this article is talking about what's the most efficient keyboard layout. You have so many today, and even today, people are still adding more. Inventing new layouts. Like yesterday on my XR Discord, I learned about this Biko layout. Okay, so it's a new layout. So actually, I should focus. Maybe I should actually focus on the code in JavaScript, because if I ramble on different things. So by the way, this is a Biko layout, and they have reasons for why they designed it this way. This is new. In the past 4 years, the Biko layout, and I don't have it in my blog, so I want to add them. So anyway, let's focus on JavaScript. That's the main thing. So what is it I want to program today? So for example, look at this page. What's the most efficient keyboard layout? People want to know, is it Vorag? Is it Comac? Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? Or is it Biko? Is it Capwell, Asino, and Walkman, and Norman, and quite a few others? So this article I explained, and it includes a chart. This is my essay talking about why, which layout, in my opinion, is the most efficient. What does it mean? How do you determine? How do you measure what? And my criticism of existing studies. So that's this article. What's the most efficient keyboard layout? And I also include a graph here. Now this is a bitmap image. Okay, so let's open it. This is a bitmap image from. This is actually data from Google, and this chart is from Peter Novick. Okay, Peter Novick is a very old. This guy, Peter Novick. He's a very old Common Lisper. He's a Lisp programming language pioneer. He's also a artificial intelligence pioneer. So if you been around in 1980s or 1990s, he is essentially the top most expert on Lisp and artificial intelligence. He has written Common Lisp books, or books on Lisp called AI in Lisp, something like that. Those are pretty old, 30 years old books now. So anyway, he wrote a blog. And he is working for Google. In 2013. I don't know now, but anyway, so he wrote a blog using Google's data, showing you bigrams. Bigrams is a sequence of two letters that occurs in writing, so that's called bigram. And bigrams are very important when you want to study the efficiency of keyboard layout. Okay, so I got this chart from his blog. Let's show his blog because let's give credit to people. So he has got this article, English letter frequency counts, Miser revisited. Miser is apparently a very famous measurement of layout study. I mean, letter frequency studies. If you don't know, letter frequency is critically important in cryptanalysis. Decryption. Like sending your credit card to Amazon, you need a lot of encryption, decryption technology. And when you do that, you need frequency. You need the statistics of letter frequency of so you can actually if you got a secret message, let's say from your enemy in World War II or in World War III, you want to decrypt it, and letter frequency is very important information. Then you might be able to know, oh, this secret message is written in English or in German language or in French and so on. So letter frequency, that's very important for encrypted analysis and also for keyboard layouts. When you study keyboard layout, why? Because you want to yeah, I think you get what I mean. More comments. How do you update the graph in real time? Okay, let's start to talk about JavaScript. So anyway, this image is a bitmap image. So what I want to do is, one of the things I want to do is I want to write a JavaScript application to generate this myself. So I don't have so this will become dynamic. I don't have to rely on his graph. I can just let me hold on a second. I can just, for example, generate it dynamically. So as I type, then you'll see a chart of bigrams. So that would be fantastic. That's one of the thing I want to do. And when you study this, you might as well include trigrams, which is a sequence of 3 letters. This is not difficult to do. So in order to code this, there are 2 parts basically. One is a program that gets a bunch of text and return the percentage count of bigrams or trigrams, which is, this part is very easy. I think most of you can probably do it in any language, in your favorite language. So that's one part of the job. The other part is to generate the SVG graphics. Now that will be a bit more difficult because you need to know the SVG technology. Okay, SVG basics. So for example, here's my tutorial. Here's how you generate a line. Here is how you generate a rectangle. You just use JavaScript to generate this tag. This rec x equals to 9, y equals to 0, where the rectangle starts. So this is SVG technology. You just use JavaScript to generate this in a browser. Then it'll show, for example, this rectangle will become, is used to draw the bar. So this is one of the project to write a JavaScript app to generate bigram dynamically. Okay, so 2 parts. One is to just, given a bunch of text, you want to generate the frequency count by percentage of bigrams. The other part is to, given a percentage of the bigrams, you want to generate the bar graph. 2 parts, okay? Now, the other question, the other kind of aspect is how do you do it dynamically? So it's different because you can do it statically, so you just, so you have a bunch of text input, then you have a chart. You press draw it, then you have a chart. But how do you do it dynamically as you type? That's also very easy. If you know JavaScript, in particular, what you need to know is DOM. Okay, so let's go back to my JavaScript tutorial. You click on JavaScript, then you click on DOM. If you code JavaScript, you know what I mean. But basically, you have to learn about DOM events. So I have an article, Intro to Event-Based Programming. So what does that mean? So that means whenever user types, type a key, press a keystroke, that's one event, and JavaScript will be able to know and call a function. So essentially, what happens is that whenever a keystroke happens, JavaScript knows and will redraw the whole thing. So like I type something, that's one event. JavaScript, there's a function corresponding to that event. You put in JavaScript. Then for example, if I keep typing if I type period will event. That's why it's called event-based programming. That technology is part of DOM. Okay, so and I have several examples. Let's see. Let me just show you some interesting ones. Okay, web scripting example. Image rollover. So image rollover is you see that very commonly. By the way, you can do this with CSS. You don't need JavaScript. So, but I want to show you something interesting. Okay, hold on a second. So you have digital clock. So that's a digital clock, and here's a code. That's how you do it. Very easy. You also use a event. Okay, so then you have a stopwatch. Stop, and here's a code, less than 100 lines, but I want to show you. And then you have fade a element, you see, unfade. So all these are plain JavaScript technology with DOM. You don't need any library. I want to show you one more thing. Okay, how to create a tooltip. So then also you have tooltip. You mouse hover and it shows. And tooltip is used in this project, very useful project. Okay, not this one. It's not Unicode search. So for example, food, cooking, pancakes. Let's see, pizza. Where's pizza? Pizza is rich man's food. Pizza. So you got, that's how tooltips are useful, or Unicode. So I mean or JavaScript, or you can use JavaScript to do that. This involves JavaScript, DOM, and CSS and HTML technology to create tooltips, and I show you how to do it here. 100 lines. Then let me show you another application. Let me show you just another one. Okay, this one. Falling snow. You have seen this. This is also pure JavaScript, DOM, and CSS. You don't need any libraries. 100 lines. Okay, 150 lines or so. So that's JavaScript, and that's about JavaScript. That's about how do you use JavaScript to compute the statistics. Then also use JavaScript to generate SVG for the chart. Then you also use JavaScript to have interactivity, so that as user types, you get the chart updated, which is you see it everywhere in Stack Overflow, in stock chart. They update in real time in lots of places. Okay, so actually I should I've been talking actually for quite a while now, 33 minutes. Oh my god. I haven't begun. Okay, so I actually Now I talked a lot, but I haven't started to code yet. And now I fear that I won't be able to actually code this in 30 minutes. Well, okay, if I cannot do it, that's fine. Okay, that's better. Don't worry. I shouldn't worry too much about it. Let's go back. Okay, hold on a second. Let me go back to yeah. God, yeah. Where is my diagram? Oh, here. Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. Open a new tab. So that article is about most efficient keyboard layout, and I want to write a JavaScript to do this diagram. And okay, so that's, and there are more. Okay, so actually there are more. I want to, now I need to think about where am I going. Okay, so here is another project. Okay, so you can see this is another project of things I need to update. So you can see in this article, it's talking about Motron layout versus Vorak keyboard layout. You know, I'm talking about which one is better. And in this article, I have a illustration of character frequency, and this is using my code. This is using my JavaScript code there. But however, on this page, it's just a static image. You can see, it's not dynamic. So one of the thing minor I need to do is that I need to modify this code so it became some kind of module so I can use in different pages. For example, in this page, Motron versus Vorak, I can simply include the code, not just a screenshot of an image result. I should be able to include the JavaScript module code so that this page is generated on the fly, and possibly also allow people to start to type and change it. So that's the second project I need to do. So the first one is, remember the where's the so the first project is, remember, to create a diagram in JavaScript. Then the second project is to modify my code so that this becomes a module. So anyway, and there are more. Okay, so there are more. Well, the other one is, okay, let me talk about the other one. The other one is to modify this diagram so that this program showing the keyboard layout heat map is combined with this character frequency, so that you can, as you type, it'll show you the keyboard layout heat map plus the character frequency. Then you can choose to hide one or the other. So yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to write more JavaScript for my website so they become better for all these. Okay, so let's start to look at JavaScript code. Let's see which one we are going to do, and let me read the comments. How do you update? So just start and you can continue in another stream. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, good. Okay, so let's, yeah, so I guess you guys want to start to look at the code. So which one should we, yeah, every time I begin to code live, I have a fear, then I started to get kind of nervous because because people are watching me code live, and coding live is not so easy because you have to talk and understand your code at the same time. You cannot stop and think, look for half a second, because that gets boring, because people are just gonna stare at your screen and not knowing what's going on. And also you have to, anyway, so So where are we going? Okay, let me just go with the flow. Okay, so you are looking at, so this page you are looking at is the source code for this for this layout heat map. Okay, so it requires two JavaScript code here. Again, no libraries, it just takes these two JavaScript code. So let's look at the first one. Okay, so actually, yeah, so let's look at the first one. Okay, so the first one is actually kind of a library. Okay, so you can see, first of all, I define a bunch of quality to map. So all these are kind of nested, a nested array or hash table, map actually, yeah, hash table. In JavaScript, a dictionary or hash table is called map, just like Java. Different languages, they use different terms. So, Perl and Ruby calls it hash table, Python calls it dictionary, Java and JavaScript calls it map. Map is new in JavaScript around 2016, which is different from object. Object is also kind of a hash table, but map is kind of better. And okay, so anyway, so first of all, I define a bunch of hash tables or dictionary that maps quality keys to Vorak, then to Comac, then to Comac DH, then to Walkman, different layout, then to asset layout, normal layout. So these are the key maps. Then you define, okay, then here you define the letter frequency. For example, let's see, how do I know? For example, how do I know E is the most used, frequently used? Where do you get that? Well, you get that by pre-computing from statistics, from corpus. So you pre-compute that, then here's the result. So for example, here is the letter frequency for English language. Then you have this map. So in English language, the letter E is used like 12%, T is 9%, A is 7%, and so on. And for pinyin is kind of a Chinese input system. So if you use pinyin is based on English alphabet. So you use your standard QWERTY keyboard to type pinyin. So if you type Chinese with pinyin, then you have this frequency. I is 11%, N is 10%, and so on. And for the French language, so here's French, E is, so you have that percentage. So you see, I started to add these kind of statistics so that eventually, you should be able to choose not just for different layout, but you should be able to choose, your language, German, English, French, any language that based on Latin alphabet. So I started to add. That's why you see these. Then you have okay, yeah. So this code needs some cleanup. So this part you are seeing is source text. So basically, this part is the statistics from a great short fiction called I have it somewhere here on my website, but where is it? Let me show you. Okay, let me just talk random. I don't, if I let me show you. Okay, keyboard layout. So let's drag that here. Then you go down to Vorak layout. Let's go to French. Okay, let's go to something interesting. So go down. Let's keep this interesting. German. Let's see German. Okay, so here's a German layout. Again, here's another project I need to do. So you see, this image right now is bitmap. I need to code this into SVG with JavaScript, so that eventually I should have a system that shows the layout and the heat map, and also the character frequency, and also choice of different layouts, and choice of languages, and also choice of different languages layout. For example, German. It's not trivial to simply add this right now, because it takes some more explanation. The reason it's not trivial right now, because the way I did this. Anyway, let's skip that. So let's see. So I'm gonna continue explaining the JavaScript. Okay. Nerdsville LLC says, is it overthinking on my part? Oftentimes, if I have manually populated maps such as this, I would generate a map using some config file. Well, yeah, that's so he's saying, yeah, well, that's a minor coding style and stuff issue that right now I'm not concerned. Anyway, so because the data is pretty small. So anyway, and they are in JSON. They are basically in. Well, if you do them in, let me explain. Okay, This is there's an interesting question from Nerdsville's question. So he's saying, why don't you just use JSON? Why don't you use JSON? Let me explain that. Okay, so why don't you just use JSON to as data for this quality to other layout key map? Why don't you use JSON? There are a few problems. First of all, JSON is invented 15 years ago, around 2004. Okay, 2004, JSON becomes very popular and becomes actually the standard, even beyond JavaScript. So what is JSON? JSON is basically the JavaScript syntax for any nested array or hash table object. Okay, JavaScript object on an array nested in arbitrary ways. That's what JSON is. Okay, I need to show you so you go to my JavaScript in depth. And where is my JavaScript in depth? So you click on JavaScript language reference, object reference, then you go down. So there's a JSON object. Then you can learn everything about JSON. So what you are looking at here is JSON. Okay, so essentially it's a mix of nested JavaScript array or object. For example, this part is an object, and this part is an array, for example. Anyway, so that's what JSON is. So the question is, why don't you use JSON for this data? Well, the problem is, so why do you want to use JSON? Because JSON is more common and interoperable between different languages. Almost every language supports it. But why don't I use it? Because if you use JSON is created 15 years ago. At that time, Java does not have a proper map hash, the proper hash table map data type object. Okay, so let me show you what is the map data type. So you go here, JavaScript object reference, then you go down, you can see JavaScript special object, and one of them is map. Now you see those stars. Those stars means they are new in 2016. Okay, so you click on that. New in 2015. New in ECMAScript 2015. JavaScript beginning in 2015. You have a new specification every year. So there's ECMAScript 2015, ECMAScript 2016 every year. So that's how fast JavaScript is progressing. So map object is new. So what is this? This is the proper data type for hash table. In other words, key value pairs. Why don't you just use object, since JavaScript object is key value pairs? Not really. Why? Because you can see explanation. If you go to map object tutorial, so there's a section. What's the difference between between object and map? Well, maps. Okay, the map object keys can be any type, but not object. Object's key can only be string or symbol. So that's you see there's a big there's a big advantage. In short, map is the proper data type for key value pairs, while object is just happen to be that way. Lots of hack, because JavaScript is the one of the worst language, created and implemented in 10 days, literally. So another advantage is that if you use object, you are actually using properties. Then you have complex issues such as inheritance, because each object has a parent. They may look up the parent's properties, or parent. So your key map becomes confusing. You have to look up parents. Sometimes by mistake a property exists not in the object but rather in the parent. So you don't want that. So map is the proper data type for key value pairs. And other reasons, such as if you use an object, you cannot know. There's no way, impossible to know how many keys do you have, because when you use an object, everything is actually a property. Then it becomes very complex because you have properties that are called symbol property. Then you have properties that's not string property. Then you have properties that's not enumerable. It gets very complex. So if you want a key value pair, you don't want to use object, JavaScript object. You want to use the proper key value pair. This point might be minor, but that's what, if you are talking about the best practice of coding, that's one of the important thing. That's a point. That's a reason they created this key value pair object in JavaScript in 2015. A proper data type. But if you are just coding 200 or even 1,000 lines of code, it's not too important. Okay. But for me, since I'm doing this leisurely, I want to go with the proper way. So that's why I don't use JSON, because if you define this conversion map in JSON, then you have to write another code to convert object data type to the map, or stick with the object data type. Then it becomes more complex, because if you do not use the proper key value pair, the map data type, then if you use object, then you have to worry about inheritance. Your code becomes more complex when you want to say, for example, merge two frequency tables. It becomes more complex. So anyway, that's a little details about that. Okay, so anyway, looks like I'm not going to start coding. I'm just gonna explain things. I hope that's useful information for those of you interested in programming languages and JavaScript. Yeah, because actual coding is I'm gonna be stuck here and there, and reading about my code. Anyway, so let's continue. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let me continue. Okay. So you have this section is about letter frequency. Then this section is about the frequency count of a specific input. So for example, in this data, the space happened 16,125 times. The letter E occurred 8,742 times, and so on. So this is one specific capture of certain input text. Why do you need this? I mean, compare this to the things on top. So you have the frequency count by percentage of English, of Pinyin, and French, and I need to add German, and others. So why do you need this? Because the idea is that if you have choices of different what languages to show. For example, let's say I want to show just English. I'm a monolinguist. I'm an American. I don't care about French or German or whatever. So I only care about English language. Okay. But then you still have an issue, because in English writing, depending on your source text, the frequency will vary significantly. Very significantly, to the point if you are designing a keyboard layout, very different. For example, if you are using Shakespeare's writing, Shakespeare's poems or plays, that kind of writing is, the frequency count, the letter frequency will be very, very, very different from let's say what you type on Discord or Twitter. On Discord we chat random things. Everyone is, I went to have eggs for my breakfast today. So this kind of style of text is very different from Shakespeare. And also, if you go to Time Magazine, New York Times, or whatever, fake news, CNN, if your text input is from journalism, so-called journalism, then the characteristics of that letter frequency is again very different from common chat and also from Shakespeare. Very, very different. Okay. And also, if you another type of text is, for example, from novels, Old Man and the Sea. Let me show you. Okay, yeah. Since I'm doing a talk show, you are watching some talk show. So let me show you some literature. Search for wordy English. So this is my blog. Wordy English. So in this page, you can see vocabulary. So I'm a nerd for vocabulary. For like 20 years, I have meticulously looked up every word I don't know and write it down. So I have a compendium of some 5,000 words here. Unflappable. Oh, it repeated. Okay, so here's a mistake. Unflappable. Okay, actually it's intentional. So you have different. I give you 3 different usage examples of the word unflappable. Then so what does that mean? Look it up. Okay. So on anathema, another word, anathema, different usage. Cognate, larceny. So you have random order. Oh, you need to turn JavaScript on. So let's say random order, enmity, reticent, vernacular. I'm using vernacular English speech right now. Want, agglomeration. So anyway, so you have a list of words, vocabulary, study of vocabulary, fascinating subject. Then you have literature, another fascinating subject. Let me show you this. I talked about this Arabian Nights quite a few times. Now this is a picture that's anathema to Americans, to American culture. So anyway, I shouldn't show this too much because YouTube is gonna censor me. Anyway, these are the actual stories and illustrations of the real Arabian Nights. The tales of 1001 nights. Very different from Disney. Okay, this is the actual story of Arabian Nights, and illustration of it. I love this. So anyway, so I was saying, so if you are, if you want text, if you gather all the text from languages, and and here are several different novels. Novel is a very different. You have very different character frequency than journalism or Shakespeare's writing or poetry or chat. You know, verbal. Chat words. Very different characteristics. So I'm showing you some of the classic literatures. Time Machine, science fiction by H.G. Wells. I love I love all this work. Flatland, a romance of many dimensions. Phi, how I frantically square my talk. that is me, Xa the troll. A modest proposal. The origin of the meaning of the word offensive. A modest proposal by Jonathan Swift. And Little Red Riding Hood. The origin of of women's studies. Okay. Now you modern millennial generation young people, you'll love this. Little Riding Hood. Okay, and Cubic and Psyche. This story is 2,000 years old. You wonder what are people thinking 2,000 years ago. Read this one, okay? 2,000 years old. The story of Cupid and Psyche, and you can begin to see how human animals think about things like love, about love, about jealousy, about about mateship, and things like that. Girlfriend, you are concerned about those issues, right? Like if you are today's youngster, you are probably familiar with the term Chad. So this story, 2,000 years old, is about that. Okay, it's about beauty. It's about fat. Is fat girls beautiful? This story is part of it. It's talking about those things. The story of Cupid and Psyche. To build a fire. Now, Jack London is a famous American novelist. He's one of the authors that Americans are proud of, and I'm proud of as well. I'm American. I love Jack London's story. So here's a short fiction, To Build a Fire. The essence of this story is that you are going to build a fire. If you failed, you'll die. Okay, that's the essence of this short story. You can finish it in like 20 minutes if you read fast. Fantastic story. A struggle between man and nature. So anyway, a bunch of literatures. So, and Telltale Heart, Edgar Allan Poe, another famous American writer. Fantastic. Okay, so back to our topic. Of keyboard layout and character frequency. So that's what I'm saying. So I want to create a JavaScript so that you can choose different layouts and see their heat map, and you can type as you type. You'll draw those things as you type, and you can also choose what language you are interested. French, English, Germany, what some of the Spanish, for example, or even Chinese, Japanese, using certain input systems. And then you can also select which type of corpus you want to be the input. For example, do you want to suppose it's English? Then do you want the statistics based on novels, or do you want them to be based on journalism, like all the news articles, words from those news articles? Or if you want to base on chat, for example, like from Discord, chat from Discord, from what you say, from your mom and pop, different styles of input. Okay, so let's go back to JavaScript. So that is why you are seeing this part. Okay, so here, this one I name it E and Easy Fiction Mix. So my intention is that this part is about English. Okay, this is the statistics for English and from Easy Fiction. So I want to add, for example, wait, it's what's going on? What? Oh wait, why is that like that? I want to add English chat text. Okay, then I want to add from novels. Okay, novels or poetry. Then I want to add from journalism. So these are the things I need to do. I need to collect the data and compute, and so I have the data for this. Okay, so let's continue looking at the JavaScript. Let's just random chat. I probably cannot start to code. So this, then we started to see functions. Okay, so here's a function, inverse map object. So what does that mean? So returns a new map object that has the key and value of key and value swapped. So here's a function. Then you have this function. This is convert key. So convert key source layout, target layout, and given a key, converts a key from source layout to target layout. So you see, so this function requires our QWERTY map we defined before. All these QWERTY to Vorak, QWERTY to Cormac, QWERTY to Workman, and so on. Hold on a second. Let me go. Okay, so let's go down. So this function, then this function, if you call it, it will. Yeah. So this function is this function change layout. When you call it, it will actually change the layout. Okay. So how long have I been talking? Maybe I'm thinking of chickening out now. Oh, 1 hour and 6 minutes. Okay. It's kind of slow talk today, but I think I'm kind of solid. So any comments? Go says, Xa, thank you for your explanation. You really help. Thank you. I haven't seen you before. Where are you from? Go. Okay, so what next? We've been already talking for 1 hour. I could close down today, but let's why not? Let's continue. So here you started to see the actual functions that draws SVG, the circles, draw these circles and the rectangle keyboard layout. So here is the draw heat map. So you can see, let me show you some interesting things. Okay, so draw heat map is a function. Then you given the arguments are a key and the language. Yeah, so you have, the language is gonna be English or French or so on. Even though I don't have the feature here, but I started to add them. So given a key, it returns it draws heat map on a key of a keyboard layout. So for example, and it says a key is a SVG text element of the form. Yeah, so so it's actually, it takes an SVG element. So we started to get complex. You need to know what a SVG element is. which is very easy, by the way. If you studied SVG elements, as we talked before, it's like that. So this is how you represent a line. That's a SVG element. So in JavaScript, it becomes a, let's see, where, get attribute. So get attribute. So SVG element is basically this thing. Okay, you see that text y equals to a number, x equals to number. The x, those numbers are the coordinate. Like, where does it appear? Then you say, so this is QWERTY, then you a is a letter, right? So you, first of all, you get attribute, which is finding out what coordinate it is at for x and y. Then you get the frequency, so because we have the data we showed before, so you can actually, so you first of all get the key text content. So this part is actually getting the A or ABC or whatever. Then you feed, so you get that, then you feed it to the language frequency hash table. What you get is a number. So you assign to the constant frequency, and so on. And then you hue. Okay, why is hue important? The color. The hue is important because the bigger the circle, you want it to be more red, so it becomes heat map, so it stand out. So the color will depends on the frequency of the letter. So you can see, so hue is defined by math round frequency divided by some number and a formula. So that's how you then you can see set attribute. Yeah, so you actually change the font size. So you can see in this diagram, the larger, anyway, never mind that part. This code currently doesn't do anything interesting. It just make every letter larger, but same for every letter. So this code doesn't do much. You don't need this code to be in this function. But why is it there? Because when I was doing this, you do a lot of experiments when you write code. For example, in the beginning, instead of drawing the circle, I just want to have a larger font. The more frequently used it is, the larger the font. Then that turns out drawing circle is more intuitive. So you can see, yeah. So this is, you can see this picture. That's how it was before. Then I decided circle is better. And since I'm talking, let me make another point. Okay, so you have seen heat maps before on other website, right? And I was showing bitmaps using their website. Let's see, keyboard layout. Let's search for it. So keyboard layout heat map, you'll see this website, very popular, and very well done. And so his website shows you the layout. I mean the heat map, just like mine, but he draws them differently. Now this is very interesting. This is cool. You actually, this is traditionally, this kind of drawing style is called heat map. Because you can imagine the hotter it is, it's more red, and like heat in air, it kind of merge into neighbors, cold and hot. But so I wanted to do similar, but when I started to code my version, it turns out I find that the circle is better. So I mean, I'm just randomly telling you a interesting thing I found about. So this issue is related to GUI, or visualization, the science of visualization. So in other words, you want to draw character. You want to visually demonstrate the character frequency. Okay, so there's a question for in the visualization, the study of visualization. Is it better to have like a circle style, or is it better to have this kind of heat map style drawing? Which one is more clear to the reader? Like the readers see it immediately, they can understand which one is more frequent, which one is clear, which one is more precise, which one is more intuitive. So this is part of the study called visualization. In fact, if you if you just search for visualization science, it became a thing. It's unwarranted in my opinion. But anyway, there's huge articles talking about the science of visualization, and there are also books about it. So you are looking at HuffPost. HuffPost is a fake news website. Science of visualization. Okay, and you can see lots of blogs or articles and books talking about it. So anyway, so I'm telling you a concrete example of one of the issue about visualization. Which one style is better? So for me, I claim that the circle style is actually better, because primarily because you can actually tell the differences between letter frequency that differ by a little. For example, R versus S, you can see clearly S is got a bigger circle. But if you use this heat map style, okay, let's compare. Let's go to QWERTY. Okay, so ASD. Okay, compare S and D. So S is more frequently used than D. You can see clearly here. But if you use the heat map style, okay, you can still see S is more frequently used, but so you can see it's kind of blurry. For example, Y versus H, which one is more frequent? So if you look at here, you can see in my chart H is much more frequent, but actually I'm using a different source than he's using. So for a fair comparison, we need to use the same input source. Anyways, that's an interesting thing about visualization science that I found. So anyway, back to the JavaScript function. So you can see, so here this part is the actual drawing of the circles. So you can see create elements, circle, then set attribute CX and CY, that's the center of the circle. Then you set attribute R, that's the radius of the circle. So the radius will be equal to frequency times 5. So that's how, this is a formula after some trial and error. So the radius of the circle is frequency times 5, and fill and stroke and so on. Okay, so this function is about drawing the circles, basically. Then the next function, you have actually removed heat map. Because why do you need to remove it? Because every time you change the layout, you have to remove the old one. So so that's actually, you need this function. Okay, so next function, count characters. Return a map. Count characters given a string returns a map, a hash table, where key is a single character and value is the count of occurrence of the character. Okay, so some of the basic functions. Then you have a function. This is truncate map. So given a map and given a number, you want to return a new map but containing only n entries. Basically, you want to cut off, truncate. Why do you want to do that? Because for example, let me show you. Okay, so suppose you have this character frequency plot, right? So you can type and see data. Now in English, you only have 26 letters and also 26 capital case, and also plus maybe 10 or 20 punctuation. So in total, you have maybe 100 different type of characters. But however, if you started to let's go to a new page. Okay, let me show you. So if you started to do this for Japanese or Chinese, you started to see the problem. Let's go to Japanese. Okay, so this page you are looking at Japanese character frequency. So you know, in my study, I also want to know Japanese. This is part of Japanese, the Japanese phonetics, which is part of the Japanese writing system. But anyway, if you start to use Japanese, if you want to compute Japanese character frequency, you run into a problem because Japanese phonetic alphabet, there are about I think there are about 100 of them. Okay, same thing. But okay, so there are about 100 phonetic characters for Japanese. But Japanese writing system also includes Latin alphabet. By definition, it's officially part of Japanese writing system. So 100 Japanese phonetic characters plus 100 English Latin letters and alphabet. But plus, Japanese writing system also includes about 3,000 Chinese characters. So if you let me show you, let me demo. Okay, so let's go to character frequency. Let's go to Latin. Okay, let's say Latin alphabet, any random article on Wikipedia. Okay, so we have this article on Latin alphabet. Now you go down on the left panel, you click on the Japanese version. Nah, they don't have Japanese version. So let's click on English alphabet. Okay, so article, Wikipedia article. Then you go down to the Japanese version, you know, Japanese Wikipedia on English alphabet. Then you select all, copy. Then you go back to the character frequency plot. Then you select all, you paste it. Let's see. So you got something like that, because now you have literally like almost 2,000 distinct characters. It's a problem here. You know, the chart is unreadable now. So you want actually to truncate it. So I made, in this page, I made choices. So no Chinese. If you eliminate all Chinese, that's not enough. You still have too many. Why is that? Yeah, so Japanese, you know. So yeah, that's when you want to truncate. You see, now you want to truncate top 30 only. So you click on that. Now you get a good picture of the top 30 most frequently used characters in Japanese. So that is why when you go back to the JavaScript code, that's why you see this truncate map function. That's why it's needed. Okay, I think maybe I should stop here. Any more comments? You know, I explained some JavaScript. Okay, let me continue some more. Okay, because then you started to have a lot of functions that helps you create SVG elements. For example, in this chart, you need to draw lots of rectangles, and you also need to draw lines for the grid. You also need to draw the text, you know, bigger font, and you also need to include the frequency. All those are SVG. So you need to say document.create SVG rectangle, and you know, getting tedious. So that's why you need, so this function, for example, this function create SVG, that creates a SVG element, the the parent SVG element. Then you have a function that, you know, it's getting detail, SVG detail translate. Then you have translate and scale. Translation is like moving some drawing to another place, and scale is like magnify or shrink. Then you have this function draw rectangle. You just give it 2 positions and you'll draw the rectangle, and you also give it the width and height of the rectangle. Then you have this function and so on, I guess. Draw grids. Okay, draw grids, draw rectangle, then draw text. That's this function, draw text. Then you have a function draw chart. Then you have a function, draw chart will draw the whole chart using previous functions. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so we actually finished looking at this JavaScript source code. This is kind of the library. Okay, only 400 lines of code. So close that. Now we are back to this file. Which is this file is the library for creating this page. Now, but there are a second file. So let me show you. Okay, a second file, JavaScript file, and this file is short. So that's over there. It is the JavaScript file. Basically, this file just calls the the library functions to actually draw the whole thing here. Okay, that's it. I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. An hour and 25 minutes. That's a long one. So if you like my stuff, PayPal me, donate, and buy my stuff. Okay, my JavaScript tutorial, my JavaScript in depth. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Bye guys. What's going on? Stop streaming.